All right, lads, just finished up at the gym. Thought I'd come back and give you a quick guide on how to bulk up 101. Pretty much a complete comprehensive guide and exactly what I would do if I was starting all over again and did not understand where to go. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. Number one, physique assessment. You need to understand exactly where you're at, where your baseline is, so you can then start to build upon that and start to get to where you want to be. So, one question you have to ask yourself, which is just going to help you massively. Can you see your abs? If you can, then you're in a good position, and then it's in your interest to bulk up and add some muscle because we already look good. Now we just need to add some size. If you cannot see your abs, and I want to stress this, do not bulk or be ready to accept being in a position where you are not very happy with your body for a long, long time. Because when you go on that bulk, you're going to gain not a massive amount of body fat, but a fair amount, and you will not reduce any. Therefore, you will not see your abs. So if it is in your interest to see your abs, I would basically start by doing a short calorie deficit. That is targeting to get rid of fat. It doesn't matter if you lose a bit of muscle, just get rid of the fat by any means necessary because it means the bulk will be so much more enjoyable and you will stay in that surplus for longer. So once you've decided from that position there, go to tdeecalculator.net, work out your maintenance calories. Once you've done that, you then want to find your goal weight using this maximum muscular potential formula and then basically target 15% body fat. Now, the reason we do 15 is because anything after is going to result in you not seeing your abs, which, as we talked about, is not ideal. So then it's a case of stripping away the body fat and rinsing and repeating. So that's your goal weight. So say, for example, you're around, let's say here, 74 kg. Well, let's say we're at 74 kg at around 10% body fat. You'd be aiming to gain around 5 kilo, 10 pounds of lean muscle, gets around 15%, and you stop when you see your abs, rinse and repeat the process. Now, to begin with, a 300 calorie surplus should be enough. You need around 250. We put 300 to overestimate, and that's going to get you gaining weight. So that's step one, the foundations. Step two, you want to test the diet. And I really want to stress this, that you're testing the diet, because I've done it where I go all in with the calories and just go really, really hard with it. But what this does is it adds a lot of fat. So you don't want to do that because then you're going to have to basically end your bulk a little bit earlier. And that's going to result in you growing less muscle long term because you're now spending more time in a calorie deficit, losing fat, which you shouldn't have put on in the first place. So the way to actually counteract this is weigh yourself weekly, assess how your body responds to that initial 300 calorie surplus. If you are gaining, then you're doing well. Everything's good. People get too greedy and they rush it like, oh, I want to gain more. So I eat loads more calories. And yes, you will gain more. And it's such an illusion. Like you're thinking, shit, I'm making way more progress. But the weight you're gaining isn't just muscle. The weight you're gaining is fat. Like there's a certain amount of muscle you can build at a given period of time. So adding extra calories is not going to speed up the muscle growth. It's going to speed up the fat accumulation. And then that's going to result in you basically having to do a longer cut, which is not ideal. So essentially just test it. Start with 300. If you're gaining, happy days. If you're not, and you really, really test that after 2-3 weeks, increase by 50 calories or so. Because you want to be in this period for maybe 8 to 9 months, especially if you're starting, right? And you just want to make sure that you've got a really nice runway to be gaining a load of muscle without gaining much fat. So that's kind of what I'd recommend. And rule number one is just do not go over a 500 calorie surplus to begin with. There will be a point at the tail end of the bulk where your metabolism, your body will adapt, and you'll probably need to be in quite a large surplus. But you do cardio to basically mitigate any fat gain. That's really, really important to understand. So do not just go all guns blazing and just go 1,000 calorie surplus. That is how you get fat as fuck, and you do not want to do that. Okay? Because I tell you what, before I move on, the biggest mistake that I made, I wish I could go back with, was overdoing my calories, and two, not starting from a point where I could see my abs. Because I spent basically 2 years bulking without seeing my abs, and no one really wants to do that. If I started again, and what I do for most clients is basically get to some point where they're pretty happy with how they look, and then just add size to that. So you get lean, you get a fucking sick W under the belt, and then you start to add size to that. Because imagine if you were like 20% body fat, and then you started bulking, because you're like, oh, I want to gain a load of muscle. No, you want to remove the body fat, get one W sorted, and then gain muscle towards that. So that's what I would do. Now, moving on. The only important variables you need to understand are calories and protein. Don't worry about fats and carbs. Until you have a very good concept of nutrition, do not worry about fats and carbs. I can't stress how annoying it is when people say like, oh, I'm losing so much body fat. It's because I've restricted carbs. It's like, you don't even understand what each macronutrient does. Carbs are not the reason you are losing X amount of weight or gaining X amount of weight. The only thing that matters, right, is calories and protein. Calories will dictate your weight. Very, very simple. Thermodynamics. If you need 2,500 to maintain your weight and you eat 2,000, you're in a 500 calorie deficit. Therefore, you will lose a certain amount of weight every single day. The same way if you are eating 500 above 2,500, so 3,000, therefore you have to gain weight. Thermodynamics, right? Nothing to do with fucking carbs. Those calories could be all carbs. Doesn't matter. And that's what people don't understand. You can do whatever you want with the carbs and the fat. What I'd say is just have a balance between the two, because carbs are very, very important because they actually help you lift more, because carbs get converted into glycogen. And glycogen is essentially what gives you energy. And if you have more energy, you lift more. If you lift more, you get stronger. Fat is not very good at getting converted into glycogen. Therefore, it is in your interest to have carbs. But I don't know, listen to most people say cut them out. I'm going to cut all that bullshit and just tell you that the only thing that matters is calories and protein. So calories, as we discussed, to basically maintain, add, or remove body weight, and protein. Because yes, you could eat 2,000 calories or whatever of whatever macronutrient you want, but the point is you would not really look good. You would lose weight, but you would not look good. The reason why is because you're not getting protein in it, and as a result, your muscles can't repair and they cannot build. Therefore, your only focus should be on calories and protein. Now, calories we will discuss, but protein, very, very simple rule of thumb, 2.2 grams per kilo of protein. If I am 80 kilograms, then I need around 160 to 170 grams of protein per day. My goal would be to hit that and then fill the rest of the calories with whatever I wish. I'd say 20 to 30% fats. That's a good range. You don't want to be restricting them completely because they are needed for processes, and then the remainder carbs. You can do the opposite. It's up to you. Test your body, see how it works. And here's just a rough calculation of how to do that, but you can have a read through that. Now, step 3, training intensity and recovery. So next mistake I made, which is pretty big, is basically increasing my calories too quickly because I thought that the calorie surplus was at fault. However, there are 3 tenets to basically growing muscle, and it's, the calorie surplus. Your body needs calories to add extra tissue to the current level of tissue it has. 2, training intensity. So you're not going to stimulate any muscle growth if you're not actually breaking down muscle fibers through training. And 3, recovery. If you're not sleeping enough and if you're not taking days off the gym, then your body's never actually going to have time to repair and grow muscle. So those are the 3 tenets, right? And you can't just have one and not have the others. They all have to coexist. So one big mistake is assuming that if someone's not gaining weight, they're not growing muscle, their lifts aren't going up, it's due to the calories. Sometimes it is, but only once you've ordered your training intensity and recovery, because the surplus puts you in the best spot for growing muscle mass, but only if the other 2 are on point. So essentially what you want to be making sure you're doing is, are you training to failure completely? Are you at a point where you're fueling up properly for these sessions? Are you hydrated? Are you training at a point where you have maximum energy? Are you coming in with sheer focus, music in your ears, no phone, and just really, really getting in the zone? Or are you going through the motions and going, I've got to go to the gym and just 4 sets, 12? Because that's not going to get you the growth stimulation you're looking for. What will do it is training to failure, drop setting, and going really, really hard. That is the key. And if you do that, then you're going to grow a lot of muscle. So that's really, really important to understand. I mean, I think a lot of guys have that, but what a lot of guys do not have is recovery, because everyone wants more. We live in a society where you want more, more, more. And I'm the exact same. I would love to train 7 days a week. I fucking love the gym. But you have to take rest days. And some people think 1 day of rest is enough. They train 6 days a week. But this is where you have to just sit back and actually be strategic and be smart about it. It's like, what is your goal? Is your goal to just feel good all the time and train 6 days a week? Or is your goal to look amazing? Because if your goal is to look amazing, then you're not going to do it training 6 days a week, because you cannot train 6 days at 100%. That's what I'm trying to say here. So most people think they're making a lot of progress training 6 days a week. You're actually shooting yourself in the foot, because your central nervous system doesn't recover. Your muscles do not recover as well. And as a result, you've got the training intensity down. You actually haven't got the training intensity down, because you're basically going to be training at around 60%. You could not train at 100% 6 days in a row. No fucking way. Impossible. So if you just did a simple maths calculation, let's say you're training at 60%, times 6 times 6, or 6 times 6 is 360, right? Now, if I did 4 days at 100%, 400%, I get more ROI out of those 4 days as opposed to those 660. And not only that, I get 3 days of recovery to make sure. So that's kind of a simple maths calculation to show exactly why recovery plays a role. And I mean, if you're in a 500 calorie surplus and you're not gaining, Sometimes it's likely because you're not training hard enough and you're not recovering. So I would say audit those two before increasing your calories. That's a mistake I made. If you do that, you're going to be levels ahead because not many people know this and not many people do it. So try that. Now, let's talk about the end of the bulk, the tail end. So there will come a point, like I said, where your body adapts. And don't get me wrong, if you are in a 500 calorie surplus and you're not gaining towards the end, then you do need to increase your calories. But you need to do cardio on top of that. A lot of people don't do cardio when they're bulking. You should be doing cardio if you're in a crazy surplus, because what you're doing is you're giving your body the calories it needs to grow the muscle mass. But then you basically need to go like, right, we've had those calories there. Now it's time to remove some excess fat gain, which is inevitable. Okay, and that's why 20 minutes, 30 minutes 4 times a week at the tail end of the bulk is really, really useful. Now, like I said, a bulk should end once you reach around 15% body fat. It's why we do it lean, so you've got a bigger runway. It gives you more time to spend in a favorable surplus. Like I said, the surplus is favorable for muscle growth. So you want to be in that position as long as possible because you want to be growing more muscle. When you're in a calorie deficit, you're restricting your calories to essentially lose more body fat. Therefore, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to gain muscle because it hasn't even got enough. Your body hasn't got enough calories to basically maintain its current muscle mass, as opposed, like, let alone fucking gaining more. So you don't want to be in that situation for long. You want to basically be like 9 months in a surplus, like 3 months in a calorie deficit, and eventually you can get to the point where you're like maintenance phase, main gaining after 2-3 years of like curating your physique. Essentially, to do this, don't rush it. If you're new, spend as much time as possible here and do it the right way so you can spend longer in this period without cutting. A lot of guys like romanticize it, like, yeah, I'm gonna bulk up, then I'm gonna cut, and all this shit. It's like, bro, cut once and then just fucking stay in the surplus and do like 1 month remove body fat. It's easy. It doesn't need to be like, oh, bulking season, cutting season. It just needs to be done once. Like, that's it. Like, it's really easy. And if you understand that, you'll get so much further ahead than most people. Now, rule 2, right? Only cut when you have sufficient muscle mass. This is, again, just like, you have muscle growth is the hard part. That's the hard part. That takes a long time. Fat accumulation is fucking easy, and getting rid of fat is pretty easy as well. I guarantee you, if you restrict your calories to fucking 800 per day and you run, you will lose fat like this. You probably lose muscle with it. If I wanted to lose fat quickly, I fucking could. If I wanted to grow muscle quickly, not as easy. So prioritize what is hard, muscle growth. And then once you have a shit ton of muscle, then you have enough to warrant the cut. Most people do is, again, a little bit of muscle, 4 months into training, go, oh, I'm going to cut. But then you just arrive at a skinny rip and you're just wasting time going around in circles. So choose one and prioritize. Very simply, that's what you got to do. Now, we're getting on here. Must know hacks. Some hacks I wish I knew. Take notes of these. I'm going to go through them really quickly. Wake up earlier. If you feel like you're the guy who's basically downing 2,000 calorie shakes filled with olive oil at midnight, like I did at university every single night, there's a simple solution. Wake up earlier. If you wake up earlier, you have more time to eat food. And you can go to bed earlier with an empty stomach, as opposed to not being able to sleep because you had a 2,000 calorie shake. So wake up earlier. Use calorie dense foods to your advantage. 200 grams of rice, 200 grams of pasta. Pasta has double the calories. Both take up the same volume in your stomach. Use those strategically because that's what's going to help you eat a shit ton of calories without feeling satiated or full. Healthy fats to your advantage. There are certain fats such as avocado, nuts, olive oil, which have a shit ton of calories and are very good for you. So use them to your advantage. If I am ever 1,000 calories short, I will literally add 8 tablespoons of olive oil to my diet, maybe 2 or 3 per meal. I won't even tell the difference. And just like that, 800 calories. Liquid calories. So when I was eating 4,000 calories per day, it was very hard to do in whole foods. Therefore, I would have a 1,000 calorie bulk and shake to start my day in the morning, and I would have one post-workout, allowing me to have only 2,000 in whole foods, which is very easy. Lifts heavy and focus on intensity. We've gone through that. Olive oil is the go. We've also gone through that. Plan meals ahead of time. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of basically eat, track, eat, track, eat, track. And that's what they think tracking calories is. That is tedious. And also, it fucks everything up. Do you know why? Because when you get to 6 or 7 p.m., you're going to be like, okay, right, I've had 3,000 calories, but I need to hit 4,000. Now you're like, shit, I've got another 1,000 calories to consume, another 80 grams of protein. How am I going to do it? It's 10 o'clock. I mean, you just go to bed because you can't be asked. Done it so many times. Really easy way to go about that. Wake up in the morning, plan what you're going to eat on the app. Make sure you hit your 4,000 calories, your 200 grams of protein. And then now you know exactly what you need to eat to hit that. All you have to do is eat those foods. And that takes 5 minutes every morning. I literally wake up, have my coffee, open the fridge. Right, what am I eating today? Add it all in. Boom. Done. Easy. Next, use cheat meals to your advantage. There's going to be times when you just can't be asked to eat a load of things, especially if you've got a low appetite. on a weekend, have fucking Domino's. As long as your protein's intake's there, have a Domino's. This isn't going to help with obviously testosterone production and probably the way you look, but sometimes you can have an off-plan meal on a surplus. It does help. I would recommend that. Myths to ignore. You shouldn't do cardio. Discuss this. You should. One, you get really unfit, and two, it helps with any excess fat accumulation. If you notice that you're getting a little bit fat, you don't have to wait until a cut. You don't have to go extremes. You can start doing cardio to remove that. It's not going to kill your gains. You can still gain a shit ton of muscle after the cardio. Don't worry. You can't bulk without getting fat. Yeah, just bollocks. Like, of course you can. You just need to basically be very, very intentional with your calorie surplus and not take the piss. Don't just eat anything. Moving on to the next point, dirty bulking. Best way to put on muscle? No, it's not. Best way to put on muscle is follow everything I've just said. Okay? Carbs are bad. Discuss this. They fuel performance. Macronutrients can't fucking manipulate the way you look in terms of actually, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just bullshit. All right? Put in the comments if you're confused. I'll do a whole video on it. More calories equal more gains. No, that obviously means gains. Yes, this is true up to a certain point. After that, excess fat gain, which is the main theme of this video. Don't gain that much fat because then you have to get rid of it on a cut and then it's not ideal. And finally, you can only gain whilst bulking. Not true. If you are maintaining and you're eating at your maintenance calories, you can use fat sources for muscle gain. This is true. Very difficult, but it is true. You can gain whilst bulking. You can gain whilst cutting or in a maintenance phase. You don't have to be bulking. So those are some myths, some hacks, and a full guide, and hopefully that clears everything up. I've tried to be as clear as possible. If anyone is still unsure, hit me in the comments. If you want to discuss the whole carbs fucking dilemma, please hit me up. I'll be more than happy to elaborate. Other than that, that's today's video. I'm going to be doing more educational videos. Please let me know what you think. I want to basically keep it a little bit interesting. One educational video, one lifestyle. I just keep fucking mixing up, grow this YouTube. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Would be really appreciated. And let me know if you've got any ideas or anything you want me to make. I'll happily do it. So yeah, that's all for today, guys. I will catch you next week. See you in a bit.